I like that. I don't know, what can I tell you? Anyway, I just told you a moment ago here why I believe last night was a great night for the NBA, because I think that it put an end to tanking once and for all, which was a scourge. It was a great night for another reason. The reason the NBA has a final 2-minute report is because they believe they need transparency. There was a genuine concern that people think things in the NBA are fixed.
Yeah.
I never want to hear anyone say they think the lottery is rigged again. The top 2 picks last night in the NBA draft went to the 2 smallest markets in the United States in the NBA. You see it right there. Hembo put it up on your screen. Memphis is the smallest market. They got the number 2 pick. By 1,000 people, New Orleans is a little bigger. They got the number 1 pick. And I will say this, that should be good for the sport. A chain link fence is only as strong as its weakest link, right?
Right.
Brett Favre played his whole career in Green Bay, worked out really well for the NFL.
Yes.
The NBA is better with star players in smaller markets. I think it was a win all the way around last night as we begin another hour of Get Up. Coming to you as always live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17 with Farnham and DJ and a cast of thousands ready to go. We're getting up with Zion. Ping pong balls of life take some interesting bounces. And last night, the ramifications for an entire sport were endless. We have it covered every which way, including for the Knicks, who made the biggest mistake you could ever make and were not rewarded for it. A night that will change the NBA forever. Don't miss Stephen A. Smith's reaction. He'll be in our studio. And oh, by the way, Steph and Clay were unstoppable last night, leading us to ask a question that a week ago would have seemed impossible. We'll get to all of that in the next 20 minutes. Let's get up starting right now, and it begins with the lottery last night. Again, the Pelicans, shocking winners, leaping all the way from 7th to 1st. They have the right now to select Zion in next month's draft. Both Zion and the new Pelicans boss, David Griffin, caught up with our Maria Taylor after the lottery.
I'm really excited for our fan base, and we got a lot of work to do, but this is a good start.
When I say Zion, you say what?
We have a lot of work to do. This is a good start.
All right, thank you for your time. When you saw New Orleans got the number 1 pick, you didn't think for a second, oh, I could be in New Orleans?
It's definitely a possibility, but, I mean, it's not sure until it actually happens. And whatever that team needs me to do, I'm going to be able to do it.
All right, so again, there's the draft order, and I just told you, Pelicans and Grizzlies, they play in the NBA's 2 smallest TV markets, and they get the first 2 picks in this draft, and their chances of getting there were infinitesimal, and they do it. Knicks, Lakers, Cavs round out the top 5. We had Woj on earlier this morning with this reaction.
The one thing that David Griffin has tried to do with Anthony so far is not try to do a lot of talking, but to show him the kind of hires he's made, the kind of investments they're making in facilities, in the front office, in the organization, essentially saying that his model right now is Oklahoma City with Paul George, Toronto with Kawhi Leonard. The idea that, hey, I just got here, I helped build a championship team, give me a chance to do that with you, and to get Zion Williamson goes certainly a long way in trying to make that case. And you know, they'll continue to try to do that through this offseason. And, you know, at some point they may have to make a decision on moving him. But right now their mode in New Orleans is to keep Anthony Davis.
We should note that I then followed up with Woj, what are you hearing from AD's camp? And he said that at this point it is status quo. They still maintain they want to be traded out of New Orleans. We'll see if that winds up changing. So no question, the Pelicans are the biggest winners on draft night last night. They move all the way up. They get the number 1 pick. They have all that optionality. So besides them, let's talk about winners and losers. Sean, who, in your mind, was the biggest winner in the draft last night?
I think it's the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, the Lakers were slotted to pick at number 11, move all the way up to number 4. And the reality is, if they're at 11, they're not even in the discussion this morning as far as having any chance to get Anthony Davis. Yes, there's a drop-off between pick 3 and pick 4, but at 4, it's still valuable enough with some of the pieces that are already on the Lakers roster to at least open the door to have a conversation with New Orleans to try to get Anthony Davis to LA.
I agree with that one. DJ, who was your biggest winner last night?
My biggest winner is sneaky, and follow me on this, is the Phoenix Suns. Yes, they wanted to get one of the top 3 picks, but if you tell me I could take the number 6 pick and possibly move it to the Memphis Grizzlies for my franchise point guard and Mike Conley, I'm taking that all day long.
Take that through a little bit. They need the point guard. With Memphis getting the 2nd pick, they now will probably take Ja Morant, which makes Conley available.
Of course. I mean, number 2, it's a consensus that they're going to take Ja Morant. Ja Morant and Mike Conley don't fit together.
Right.
So if I'm Memphis, I'll take the number 6 pick and give you Mike Conley. And Phoenix Suns, now you have Mike Conley to go with Booker as well as Aiden.
Yeah, you're not picking a backup point guard at the second pick. It's not like the NFL where you're picking him like, oh, he can sit behind this quarterback for a year. You want him out on the floor playing.
No, and to the point. I mean, whether Morant winds up being long-term or not better than Conley, you need a veteran in there because you have already the 2 young players in Booker and Ayton. Okay, I like that. It's a little outside the box. How about the biggest loser last night, Sean Farner?
I think the biggest loser was the Celtics because we came into this lottery saying, okay, look, the Kings pick, if it becomes better than what we expect it to be, now all of a sudden the Celtics are the forefront of the Anthony Davis trade discussion. Now they come up with the last pick overall. Now you've got question marks as far as what's going to happen with Kyrie. We had Rozier on the program yesterday. Obviously, he made some strong comments about how that organization looked this year. So now all of a sudden things maybe not as rosy and as plentiful as far as trade value goes for the Boston Celtics.
A year ago at this time, the Celtics looked like they might win the championship and get Anthony Davis. Life comes at you fast.
Really fast.
In the meantime, so that's his biggest loser. Who was yours?
I'm going to say the Cleveland Cavaliers because now you moved on from LeBron James era and you were looking to get Zion Williamson, if not him, Ja Morant, or even R.J. Barrett. And you move all the way down to 5. Like we said, after the 3rd pick, there's a drop-off in talent there. So I would say the Cavs is my biggest loser.
Yeah, they just brought in the new coach and John Beilein. And I remember when we first talked about him coming on, one of the questions was, interesting that he didn't wait to see where they wind up in the lottery because that could really change how desirable a job that is one way or another. They wind up falling further than they were expected to. As far as the New York Knicks, you could paint it one of 2 ways. Either it was a disaster because they had the worst record and they wanted Zion, or it was something of a win because the odds in the new system suggest they could have easily fallen further than they did at number 3. Let's see what Stephen A. Smith thought. This was his immediate reaction on social.
Damn! Damn it! Damn it! Typical Knicks, man. I knew it. They'd get close. They'd tease us. And then they wouldn't get it done. Ow! 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 I know the Knicks were denying it. I know the Knicks had everybody believing that if they got the number 1 overall pick, they were going to hold on to Zion. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what they tell anybody, they were thinking about moving that pick for Anthony Davis. They were at least thinking about it. Now New Orleans gets the first damn pick, and then they got both guys. What do the Knicks have? What do the Knicks have?
Here in a little while. And the first question I'm going to ask him is, where were you sitting?
I think he was in a car,
right?
I think he was like in a car, but just turn the overhead light on so we can see you.
That said, it was a thing of beauty. I mean, it was exactly what we were hoping it would be and more. And so I would ask you the question, Sean, was last night a good night or a bad night for the Knicks?
I think it's a good night for the Knicks. I think the initial reaction is we didn't get what we want. Right? We heard from the fans in the first hour, like, oh, it hurts. That's because you wanted Zion Williamson. I get that. But you still have the opportunity to either draft R.J. Barrett, who, again, I will remind everybody, coming into this college basketball season was the presumed number 1 pick in this year's NBA draft. He has the potential to be an all-star. It's a very good pick if you draft him. But it's also a very tradable asset to potentially get Anthony Davis. If you package that with the Mavericks pick and Kevin Knox, all of a sudden now you are very much so still in the discussion to get Anthony Davis if he makes it clear that he has no interest in staying in New Orleans.
They should have all the hope in the world because Anthony Davis is a top 5 player in the league right now with the Kawhi Leonards and Greek Freaks and LeBron James and Kevin Durant.
Right.
So Knicks fans, you should be excited with the possibility of getting Anthony Davis, joining with Kevin Durant, or maybe Kyrie Irving in the summer.
Now, if you heard Steve there, he was basically made it sound like he doesn't believe they're going to get Anthony Davis. Now, either way, Stephen A. will be in here in about 35 minutes, and so we will look forward to asking him directly, A, where he shot that video, and then B, of greater consequence, how does he think they use it? And again, I would say this to Knicks fans, all those dejected people in that bar that you saw there. You saw Hembo put the number up on the screen. They had a much better chance of finishing fifth than they did of finishing in the top three. Way better than they did of finishing first. And the big drop-off in this draft, maybe you could argue it's from 1 to 2 because of the star power of Zion Williamson. But as far as the overall talent in the draft, the top 3 picks are where you want to be. And the Knicks did get one of those.
Yeah, the Knicks are still in prime position to have some flexibility. They have options available to them. If you draft at number 1, by the way, you have to obviously take Zion Williamson.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and I understand what Stephen A. was saying, but I don't think the Knicks would have traded Zion Williamson. They would have drafted him. They would have sold out Madison Square Garden and packed the place and brought some excitement back to the Garden. At number 3, you do have more flexibility to trade. You have options if you're New York. Those options give you some freedom to improve your roster.
The only question I would have is if they get in, I'm guessing, I'm not even a guess. If I'm Kevin Durant, I'm much more interested in playing with Anthony Davis than I am in playing with a 19-year-old kid in Zion Williamson. You want to try and win, you put Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis together. That's a very good combination. So if the Knicks find a way to get Anthony Davis, they become, I think, more attractive for these big free agents.
Yeah, because Kevin Durant is going to win the NBA championship this year.
Right.
And if I come to the Knicks to match up with Anthony Davis and I have a chance to get out of the East and get back to the finals again without the Splash Brothers, I'm taking that.
Okay.